You're listening to the Blacktop Banter Podcast, the premier podcast in the asphalt industry, made for contractors with contractors.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Blacktop Banter. Very excited for this one. This is a gentleman that has joined me today that didn't realize what he was getting into when he kind of linked up with me, and I haven't let him go since. So I'm going to read my friend Josh's LinkedIn profile, which he was scared that I put an intro together. I didn't read through it with him, so we're going to jump into that. Joshua Mellott is chairman. I like that. It just says chairman on his LinkedIn. Chairman, right? And it also states he's an experienced senior executive with a demonstrated history of working in the construction industry, skilled in negotiation, AutoCAD, budgeting, value engineering, and electrical design. A strong program management professional graduate of Associated Builders and Contractors focused in electrical construction. He's also a father, been a really good friend since him and I linked up. He's a podcast host, and he joins us today on BB. Dude, you didn't know what you were getting yourself into when you linked up with me, huh?
I had no idea, but honestly, I'm really glad for it. So,
oh, cool, man.
I do think it's important to just reference, you know, if you're on LinkedIn, that you're the one that writes the things that are on LinkedIn. So all that really cool stuff, you know,
right?
Exactly.
When you write it, right? You're like, dude, how do I like write this? You know, they made a profile on everything, and then they had to put in a bio. And I'll do that. Like I had my friend Keith on, and I was like, dude, I made a intro out of your LinkedIn bio. He's like, dude, I have no idea what that thing even says. He's like, it's been 10 years since I looked at that bio. I should probably update it. And I said, well, after I read this intro, you definitely should update it. So I always think it's funny, man. But I think, like, you know, I like to look back on them because there's people who keep it updated a lot. But I like to look back on them because it's growth too. Like now, I bet if you rewrote that, it wouldn't sound like that. But you get to go back and look at it and be like, this is who I was and this is who I am. And it gives you some retrospect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I never would have thought that podcast hosts ever would be on my profile. I mean, it's not, but maybe I should update that.
Probably so.
Yeah.
I would if I were you, man. So we were fortunate enough to connect down in Houston this last year at Dirt World Summit. I'm going to be honest with you. I made a few connections when we were down there, and you and I connecting and doing that podcast live. Shout out to Jake and Curran for setting it up right there in the lobby. Was one of the highlights, not only for us, I believe, but maybe for the whole dirt world. Like people looked forward to that podcast coming out from Dirt World. We would get messages. I would get messages when I would post like the pics that y'all took. They're like, we want to know when this is coming out. When the Blackline episode's coming out. So I think we did the job, but dude, it never ceases to amaze me. If I'm open and I do things that create opportunity, this type of stuff happens, and you and I have become good friends, man, through this type of thing.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, you made it really easy, which was nice. So
yeah, it's experience, bro. That's experience being under the gun and speaking and doing my thing. But we made it fun, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you letting me do that, and in returning the favor here. So now I got you in my seat. This is the first time you've been a guest on a podcast, correct?
Very first time. A lot of firsts with Marvin Joles.
That's right, dude. Well, you run with me very long. It's bound to happen. Shout out to everybody that was at Pavex and experienced a lot of firsts here this last week, which was fun.
That was impressive, man. I was following you on Instagram and LinkedIn, and just what you're doing there. I got to say, very encouraging to me to watch that transpire and see what you're doing. In, you know, our vision with what we're doing here at Blackline is to lift the view of the skilled trades, and you're doing that right alongside us. And so that's just exciting to me to watch it play out.
Yeah. No, dude, I appreciate that. I'm going to be honest with you, and you probably agree with me. I don't think there's anything that I can bring to the table of awareness of how to improve your business that probably isn't already out there, or there's somebody well-versed and better at it.
Yeah.
So for me, that was never really my avenue. I'm still learning. I don't speak about what I don't know about, but what I do know about is how to make the choices and put yourself in situations so that you enjoy your life daily.
Yeah.
And for me, that has been tough as a contractor and entrepreneur, because when you choose this route, you don't really know what it's going to do to your personal life, your life, what you're going to have to sacrifice to get there.
Well, that's the truth.
So then you have this regret that you can't rewind the clock, right? And now like you love the game, so you can't let go of it, but you love your family. So for me, it's been interesting because usually when I link up with people that join us at BBSG or become into my circle, my community, they got issues, man, like issues that they want to deal with, and the only answers they've ever found is make more money, and that don't do it, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I got guys that are doing 8 figures that are close friends of mine with a great margin, and they're like, dude, why am I not happy? And how can I be happy? And why don't I feel like I belong or I don't have a purpose? And that's the only stuff I've ever searched for. So I'm probably the black sheep, the weirdo that like has dug in and really like researched it and applied it. And we raced go-karts with Spencer Boyd of NASCAR Truck Series.
That was crazy, man.
Dude, no one thought our lives would lead to that point, right?
Yeah.
And we got these guys that have been, we got one guy that has been in a truck by himself, or was for like 18 years doing service industry stuff, painting lines. And he came to Payvex and spent time with us, and he's like, I had no idea my life could be this, and that I could be this happy around other guys that do what I do. And I was like, yeah, that's what we do. Like, we just show people what they're capable of, and help them believe it is the big thing. And it's been fun, man. And I think that's kind of why, like, our conversation that you and I had on Blackline and what you all are doing is fun for me too, because it shows what's possible.
Well,
I like that.
You talk about that with, we need to help them believe it. I did a post the other day where I was explaining, I'm on our podcast, it's called The Line, and I was explaining what that means when I ask people to step up to it. And it's about changing an industry. And so helping make them believe it is a big part in us changing the way that things have been done for the past, 75 years.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started in the trade, just like what you're talking about, it's like, well, you just work, and everybody hates everybody, and everybody's nasty, and everybody's mad, and it's like, it doesn't need to be that way,
right?
Cold plunging helps though, because all my nerves are dead, and I'm really nice then because I have slow reaction time.
Yeah, and scientifically proven that the dopamine rise after cold plunging doesn't have the negative dip after. So you just stay at a sustained dopamine click. So it's the only thing that I know of research-wise is cold plunging. And you and I talked about that, and then we were both like, dude, we got to do it. Apparently we have to do this. And if anybody's been following along with me close, Eli and I have been doing it. And it's not fun, bro. It's like anything else. It's not fun.
Yeah.
But we make it work when it comes to it. I want to highlight something that you kind of hinted to a little bit. You and I spoke about this, I think, when we were at Dirt World, which I have so many conversations now and I'm getting older, so that we might not have had this one, but I guarantee you we could have.
If it's good, I'll totally take credit for it and act like it was our conversation.
I think it is good. Also, you were drinking Johnny Walker, and I was having a fruity, prickly pear, whatever it was, drink on your show when we were talking. But so I might be fumbling it a little bit here, but I think you and I came to the conclusion, I believe we did have this conversation, that if everything got stripped away from us as far as the business side goes, it wouldn't take us very long at all to have a business that's back in the black and have us back in Houston a year later, right there at Dirt World Summit. Like, that it has been found. It's proven. We know it. It's an easier thing to structure and put together to climb back into the saddle. Once you kind of realize service businesses look the same somewhat, you could get into any field. And if you already have a knowledge of that field, they could bankrupt us tomorrow sitting at the table. And I believe in a year, we would be back to where we're supposed to be. Right.
Yeah.
So that's not the hard part, dude. The hard part is what's out of your control, what doesn't have the map. And that's a lot of our conversation between you and I is, I could be doing everything right on the business side and providing everything that the world says to provide. And all of a sudden somebody in my life be like, yeah, that's not cutting it for me. That's not what I'm looking for. And I don't know what I'm looking for. And then that's when we hit a wall. and it shatters that structure of the business side that we've built. So I really want people to kind of get to know you, because you and I, when we talk or we text, a lot of time it has never been about business. We both figured out early on that, you know business, I know business, we make money, that's cool. Let's talk about everything else under the sun. Give us a little bit of background about you, because I gave a little bit of my background. I'd like people to get to know Josh and like this rise of from where you started to where you are. And if you could, don't sugarcoat anything or leave anything out, man.
Oh, well, there's not a lot of sugarcoating that I could do. I'm not perfect. I'm really not that skilled to be able to do that and hide all the bad stuff. Plus, we don't learn from the bad stuff. I mean, if our vision with what we're doing is to lift the view of the skilled trades and to help someone else be able to build, then we want to talk about the mistakes and the things that we've made. So if you're looking for a little background of who I am and my journey, I can do that. Is that my understanding? That's what you're asking, man.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, just like anybody else, I grew up, and in high school I started to think about, well, what am I going to do? And I always was working, and doing something, because I remember we talked about this on our podcast. I grew up and we were poor, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
I thought every kid, when they wanted a bike or this or that, that their dad was like my dad, where he said, you want that? That's great. Get a job, make money, then you can go buy it.
Yep.
And so skipping past that, then I'm in high school, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do for life, for a career? And I don't know what it is about being, 18, 19, 20 years old. There's this tremendous fear about, well, what is the journey of my life going to be? What is it that, I need to do this, this, and this, and I need to do it right, or I'm going to fail miserably. And it's like, I'm just so struck by every young person that I talk to. And when I think back to where I was, the amount of pressure that was on me to make the right choices. And I really believe that the best thing to do is just to send it, especially when you're young, because you have time to pivot, time to grow, all of those things. So my father gave me the advice to learn a trade. And so I was doing some other things at the time, because when you're young and you're single, and you have a good job.
What other things? Don't skip that. I want to know what other things when you say other things.
So I thought that, so when I was like 14, I remember it was before I could drive. I had multiple jobs. I think I had 3 or 4 paper routes, and then I would work on a farm, and I wanted to make money so that I could do stuff. And so one of the things that I really wanted to be when I was younger was I wanted to be a pilot. And so I had accumulated a lot of money when I was young, because I had no bills.
Right.
Paid for myself to go through flight school and to become a pilot.
Damn.
And so from I think my first flight where I was actually behind the stick, I was 14. And so most of my high school I was working, and I flew airplanes in my spare time.
That's crazy, bro. That's crazy.
And it was a lot of fun. But the crazy thing was, when I got a job learning a trade, and I thought that was just going to be to fill the time until I got a job as a bush pilot in Alaska. That was my dream,
Right.
Well, pilots don't make as much money as people in the trades do. And that was a pretty eye-opening thing. And then I met a girl, we got married.
Oh, yeah.
And
she definitely wasn't down for the bush pilot life in Australia.
Well, she was great, because she would go with me wherever it is that we thought we should go.
That's cool.
You can't. So you can't build a business if your partner isn't walking it out with you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean they have to be in the business, but they need to be committed to the pain and the agony of what you're going to go through.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah. So, just to move along in that journey, I was learning a trade. I'm in my 20s.
What trade?
Electrical. So I became a journeyman electrician, went through an apprenticeship program in an organization called Associated Builders and Contractors. They're all over the country. And they had a program back then that the company that I worked for paid for me to go through that schooling and to learn that trade. And wow, so I'm trying to think how real I want to be. So I'm always telling people I want to have an honest conversation.
Yeah,
so
well,
I'll be honest.
that is the first thing on the black line thing, right? Is honesty. There's the coin, right? There's three things on here. I'm going to go through them all when we're at different parts of this conversation, and you brought up the first one, which is honesty. So please, please do it. You learned your ABCs of electrical engineering at the ABCs, right? So,
wow, that was really cute. I like how you did that there.
Thanks, man. I try to get.
You should reach out to them for some marketing. Like you could probably do their marketing with that kind of stuff right there.
Yep, hit us up, blacktopbanner.com. Click the drop-down tab of partners. Yeah, so tell us what you're going to be as real as you could be, and then I'll navigate it and keep you from tearing up.
Oh, cool. Well, it's not all that deep, but it's about being honest about my skills.
Okay.
And when I was working in that trade, I was not a great electrician. I'm not the most skilled journey person, but what began to develop, and I believe what my bosses began to see, was I could work with people and build teams, and I could problem solve.
Okay.
And when you're working, like I could get the job done, and it was good enough. Like I've worked with so many guys over the years. It's just been so revealing to me of how not skilled I am. And you know, I'm the chairman, which I typed into my LinkedIn. I'm the chairman of an organization that, you know, our sister company is an electrical construction and engineering firm. And so all those guys that are listening now are like, wow, so the boss finally admitted that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, if you want a parallel, I've come to that realization about seal coating and asphalt maintenance. I'm good. I can get it done. I think I'm the best where I'm at. I'm located, but that's the problem with growing a community.
Aren't you located in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's strategy. That's actually one of my strong suits is strategy. It's easy to be the best of the best when there's not a lot of people there, which it was probably a good part of Blacktop Banner's success as being an asphalt industry podcast. I was the first one to do it. I was like, well, it's easy to be the best when there's no one there. So here we are. We're jumping in. But yeah, I mean, that's self-reflection, right? And you got to be honest with it. That's been hard for me. I was challenged, not to cut your story off. I want you to keep going.
Oh, no,
Ed Milet, I watched something. I was super fortunate this last month to get to see Ed Milet in person, which is crazy to me that my life has made it to that point.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, dude, I've got good friends. Brian Hess over at the Pavement Group in PA, in Pittsburgh, dude, solid friend, and creates many opportunities for me that I'll never be able to repay him for. But Ed we were watching some stuff. My son went with me. Eli went with me. And we were watching some Ed and Milet stuff. And he's like, I got 2 skills. Okay. And I doubled down, tripled down, 10x down on these 2 skills. I'm a good communicator and I can understand people really well. And he's like, that's what I built my whole entire business on. It's made me very wealthy. So I kind of wrote down a thing. I wanted to know in some self-reflection what I'm good at, what I'm average at, and what I'm bad at. Yeah. I did the good. I did the average. I didn't do great because I don't know that I've focused on something enough to be great at it yet. I did those 2 lists, and I went to the bad, and I realized that's open-ended. I could be bad at pickleball. I could be bad at hairstyling. So I just kind of got rid of the bad one.
I'm bad at both of those.
I can promise you I'm bad at hairstyling because there's nothing underneath here. I had to do it for a long time, brother. But I think that self-reflection has now made me pivot well. And I think that may be why Pavex went really well. I doubled down on what I'm good at, and I'm focused on that. So once you found that out about yourself, how did that happen? How did you make that pivot where you're like, dude, there's guys that are killer at electrical. I'm good at building teams and leading and organizational. What did that self-reflection do for you?
Well, I think the thing that was really interesting when I kind of realized it by accident because I went out on my own and started my own organization because for whatever reason, I went out on my own. I felt like that was something I was supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And when I did that, I realized if you send it and you work hard, not a lot of people do that. Mm. And so as I did that, and we still deal with this today as an organization, when we do what we said we will do, people are fascinated by that.
Yeah.
And so then they keep calling us for work. And so what happened was that as we began to grow, I thought I would have like, a helper and a van and that would be good.
Yeah.
And but so people began to get around us in that way, and we hired more people. And then one day I had an epiphany, and I was like, I like people. I like people, and I like building into them and encouraging them to grow. And so the businesses that we have, really, we have them because my favorite thing to do, and something that I think I'm good at, is seeing those qualities in someone else and being their cheerleader. Like, I want their success. I want, and you build everything to sell it. And wouldn't it be great to build businesses and sell it to the guys that help build it?
Oh, dude. Totally.
I mean, that's what I want to do. And so I began to realize that as we were growing as an organization, it's like, it doesn't matter if it's electrical, plumbing, HVAC, whatever it is. I actually don't care. But the people that do the work, that's something that I really care about and I really love. And being able to work alongside them. And so I began to see that and realize, wow, that really brings me joy. So I try to do that as much as I can and surround myself with high quality people. And when you do that, it's like the work does itself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's been a late revelation for me, right? Of like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. And the things I'm average at aren't good enough. Right, like average isn't good enough for me, especially when we're in the industry we're in. We're in a service business on the seal coating and asphalt maintenance side that's seasonal, where we have to crunch a year's worth into 6 months up here in Wisconsin. And I can't just tell people, you can do it. This is our goal. And they're going to be down to work. We did a stretch, maybe not last year, but the year before, where we did 19 days straight, and it was hot. And it was miserable, and we were out grinding. And I'm like, isn't this great? And everyone else like, no, this isn't great. Like, this is miserable as shit. I don't care if you buy us lunch and Gatorade every day. We're miserable out here. So then I had to I think one of my greatest characteristics about me is, and it wasn't always this way. I had to find it and nurture it a little bit, but I'm never scared to ask for help now. I realize that I'm at a level where there's that is the next move. The next move is asking for insight and help.
Yeah.
Because you're getting into uncharted waters, right? So it's like, oh, okay. And that's what we did. We did it last year. Like, I lost half my crew, if not more, last year in the middle of the summer.
Wow.
And it was literally because we had a great culture. I removed myself from that culture thinking it was going to sustain itself. I came to BB and we started building a better culture here as we started to grow.
Right.
And it's prevalent at BB that made it. And at Wiscode, it just shattered. So we go into the off season, I hire a coach and get multiple coaches with multiple insight from successful seal coat businesses and whatnot. I'm like, okay,
Come on, this is good stuff, man.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm dumb. Okay. Tell me how to be less dumb. Not necessarily smart. But I'll work.
Is that how you said it? Tell me how to be less dumb.
Yes,
you are good with words, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that's we're in the middle of cornfields and cows. There's a lot of methane in the air out here, so you take what you can get when it comes to the old dome. But yeah, I mean, that's what I said. I was like, I need to know how to do this, and not think that I know how to do this, and think that it's just going to run itself, because we're different motivated now in the world as humans, and I had to work on that. So we're working on that. We're confident. The culture here at BB is a culture I've always wanted to be in and exist, and it's because of that mindset shift that's happened. And I think that really what happened was I took what I had been building in the asphalt industry community that people love and want to be part of, and applied it to my businesses, which seemed like a simple thing that my mind should have connected together, to make happen. But it didn't up to that point, because money was never involved in creating the community and getting people connected. So my mind was always like, well, money has to be the motivator. This is their job, right? Even if it's not, but that's totally not the case, and things change. So, that was some advice that I took and applied, and it's worked out well for us here, and hopefully it keeps working out well for us. If not, and it falls apart, I'll be affirmed. I'm dumb. Help me be less dumb. I'm cool with that.
So, and I'm not meaning to interrupt you, except I
flip
am.
it.
But I'm gonna, maybe this is dangerous. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you questions, but
I did on your podcast.
You did. So you had that experience with Wiscoat. So what are you doing? Because I'm assuming that you still are part of that and you own that.
Yep.
What are you doing? This is dangerous. I'm sorry, man, but I
already got the answer.
Risk it. Yeah. What are you doing to maintain that culture and to build that culture? Because honestly, I want to learn that, because as our organization is growing, I am struggling with the same thing.
Yeah.
In maintaining culture across different brands.
Yeah, it's a tough balance. I think the problem is we in our minds come to a conclusion that I can do it. This business works this way. All I got to do is replicate that at this one, and I can replicate it here. And it's totally not the case. It's like it's a complete different climate and atmosphere and biome. So the other problem is that I live a unique life. BB makes my life unique compared to other asphalt maintenance and asphalt management companies within my industry.
Can't
right?
imagine.
So what did we have to do? It worked building it to a certain point when that was the only thing in my life. But when this side started to get heavy, it made this different. Even though I didn't do anything, it made this different because this exists. So, thankfully, I got good friends and guys that have quote unquote made it in my mind. To them, they got the same bug you and I have, where they're like, one day I'll make it. But I know they're farther along in their journey than I am. And all we did, dude, was reevaluate Wiscoat, what it looks like, what its goals are now at this point, and how it can be designed to accommodate my lifestyle now and BB. In a way that we can restructure and rebuild it so that it fits that. I had never done that before. It was designed originally to create revenue, to pay my mortgage, make sure my bills are paid, and sustain me long enough to get my kids through school. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've done well enough that it'll probably do that, right? If I just do that, it'll do that. But that's not my life's goal anymore. Like that's not what it should be designed for. And if I, in my mind, think that that's okay over here, but it has completely changed, I'm screwing it. I'm screwing it up, dude. So that's what we did. We're working on a redesign, and we're still working on it, but we have the framework and everything. Now it's plugging in the right people of the right caliber so that they're around, and to not necessarily have to lift so heavy and be super people dependent on the labor side, where I'm great with building relationships and I'm okay with foregoing monetary margin with simplistic design so that I can keep doing the BB thing. So
there's a great book that talks about that it's called Good to Great. I forget the author's name.
Jim Collins.
And he talks about the right people on the right seats in the bus, and that's huge in what you're talking. And that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
The problem is ours is a short bus at Wisconsin, right? so like which I mean in a positive way. Meaning that there's not a lot of people. Doesn't need to be a lot of people. They just have to be the right people. And
boy, that's the truth.
That will be the design to help me out over here. Where before I was trying to fill a huge bus, dude, because all my friends in all these other cities, that's what they needed, right? That's what their design was for their goals. And when I never had set goals before BB started and I got around all these people. So it was still trying to fill this huge bus, but the destination where it was going wasn't where it originally started as. So literally I was like throwing all these people and all this money and everything at it to keep it going down the road, and it had no idea where it was going. Right. It had already reached the destination. It had just moved on. And it was like, well, now where do we go? What do we do? Which was wrong to do. So now with that redesign, I'm excited for it, man, because we're relying on partners now versus employees to make sure we get our workload done. We focus more on what I'm good at.
That's smart, man.
And less depending on it. So, man, I think I'm excited for it, dude. It's, you know what it is? It's just being open and valuing the right things
Absolutely.
versus what the world says, right?
Well,
Like
I mean, you really
my
said a
situation's
nugget.
unique.
You really
Go
said a
ahead.
nugget there where it's like, I think the not to discount all the other important things that you said, but one of the most important things that you said is being humble enough to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're building a business, whether it's an asphalt, electrical, plumbing, whatever it is, your humbleness to be like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I do this better?
Yeah.
The thing that makes us stupid is when we're too prideful and too arrogant and our ego is so big that we don't ask those questions.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And I don't know if you've noticed, but in the construction trades industry, we got some pretty big egos.
Yeah,
So,
for sure. Yeah, you should
yeah.
go into the don't do this, but anybody who wants and is curious and can, you go into the Facebook groups for asphalt industry and seal coating
Yeah.
industry and look at when people post pictures of their work, and you'll find out that there's egos all over, and
Yeah.
everybody knows the right way to do it, and I've come to find out there's 500 right ways to do it, and
Yeah.
also keep scrolling because there's 500 wrong ways to do it, right? So
Yeah.
there are a lot of egos and stuff in the way, but I think one thing that you touched on there, you know, of being humble and just asking is the key. Like
Yeah.
there's you know what, dude, even reading books and watching YouTube
Oh, yeah.
isn't completely humble enough. Like you're still
Yeah.
looking for and asking these people for help, even though you're asking Google, how do I maintain a great sales force?
Yeah.
Or you go to YouTube, how to maintain a great sales force. You're asking somebody somewhere a question, even though it's a search engine, and hoping for an answer. That's no different than going to a conference and being like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm at $1 million. I don't know how to get to 5 million. I've tried for 10 years. I want to." There's a great BB podcast that came out, I don't know, probably a month ago or so, and it wasn't supposed to be a podcast. It was our friend Chad Buck from Buck Brothers Asphalt and Concrete in Toledo. Dude built a great business. Very smart guy, a ton of experience. And in the middle of this thing at the beginning, he's like, I'm a third generation. This business did what it was supposed to do. And when it got to me, I ran it into the ground and it was about bankrupt. He's like, and I spent my last dollars going to a conference in Florida, and I found I asked everybody for help and nobody would help me except one guy. He said, and this guy helped me redesign it. And it changed my life. And his son runs that company still. They're on their 4th generation.
That's
Jake,
impressive.
Yep. Jake and his brother Zach. And dude,
All because he asked the question.
All because he asked the question.
Yeah.
His lineage, destiny, and family tree came because he humbled himself enough to ask the question. And guess what? We all look at this guy like a effing stud.
Yeah.
Like, dude, he's one of the leaders, the epitome. And you're like, that's the example, is being humble, right? And giving back. Now he gives back to all of us. He's like, you better go find somebody. Like your grandchildren's grandchildren depend on it. Like, you better go ask somebody. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, pride's stupid. Right. So
well, you should get that put on a t-shirt. Pride is stupid. I mean,
all right, cool. Yeah. I'm going to do it. It's funny that you say that, because the last conversation I had at a expo, or I guess 2 expos ago, we had Jacob Buck, his son, on the podcast with us doing it live. And Jacob said something. I asked a question and Jacob's like, I'd like to touch on that. And we're like, dude, I said, we're putting that on a t-shirt with his face. He says, I'd like to touch on that. So here we go. We got 2 coming from these guys. But yeah, dude, what'd I say? Pride is dumb?
You said pride is stupid, and it is stupid.
Yeah, it is stupid, dude.
Yeah.
It's a killer. It's a killer. It's like greed and envy and everything, dude. It's a killer. We all hear, pride comes before the fall. Well,
yeah, that's the truth.
Chances are you ain't even high enough that the fall is going to hurt, right? If you're prideful, chances are you're not even high enough that pride's going to hurt. It's when you get there and you have the chance of greatness where pride comes in and you fall, and that sucker hurts bad. And
I think the reason that pride is so stupid is because it blinds you. When you have pride in your eyes, you can't see anything else. And so that's why pride comes before the fall. It's because you've blindfolded yourself so you don't see when the road changes.
Yeah,
you don't see when the problems are there. And that's a big deal. I mean, I think it's okay to be proud of what you do, but I think there's a major difference in being prideful in what you do.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I think if you have a conversation and the way you speak about what you do shows whether you're prideful or you're proud.
In my opinion, Dynapac CC900G roller is the best roller on the market for driveway and small parking lot paving contractors. The seismic technology in these rollers is unbeatable for the smoothness and compaction they provide. Take my word for it, or visit Dynapac.com to find a dealer near you.
Hey, Blacktop Banner fans, this is Michael with Aquafault. Aquafault is the only permanent repair material for asphalt and concrete that uses water. And installation is simple. Just pour, add water, and tamp. It's that easy. An Aquafault repair can be open to traffic immediately and fully sealed within 24 hours. Visit aquafault.com to learn more.
I work closely with KM International to design what I believe is the best seal coating unit on the market. The Blacktop Banner Edition seal coating unit, available in both 550 and 700 gallon versions. Learn more about the unit by visiting kminternational.com.
Quick startups, fume-free, automatic agitator shutoff, a splash-proof lid, and pumping on demand. These features are essential for any serious asphalt maintenance contractor. Elevate your game with the Crafco SuperShot line of melters by visiting crafco.com today.
Hi contractors, it's Kyla from Wiscoat. We use Stencil Plus for all of our pavement marking stencils. You can save 10% on your stencil order by using code BB10 during checkout at stencilplus.com or by calling 877-372-6055.
In the past year, Jobber has been our CRM of choice at Wiscoat, and it's made our world exponentially better efficiency-wise. For our small seal coating company, it has helped build the solid foundation we can scale from. Jobber is now a sponsor of Blacktop Banter and helps bring this show to you. With this partnership, Jobber is offering an exclusive savings to BB listeners of 20% off for 6 months. To take advantage of this, find the Jobber link in the show description and get to improving your process today.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Dude, I don't know about you, Josh, but I'm not impressed by very much, bro, in business. Like, you know what I'm impressed with is people who, when they're not there, their people talk about how good they are to them and how they've helped them in life. Like, for me, I don't care how much money you make, dude. You know what? I gave a talk at a conference recently, and I had to tell everybody in the room, I'm like, dude, y'all are so impressive. Everybody makes so many millions of dollars. When we walk out of this effing room, we're back on the court with Elon Musk, and you guys aren't shit, right? And so let's get that out of the way. That's not impressive and not why we should be here. What we should be here is for the toolbox of friends and community we have to help us live full lives. Because the guy that's working a field in Guatemala, with coffee beans, and brings them back to his family and sees them all eat, is living a full life.
That's
that
what
guy
it's
makes
about, man.
pennies, right? So for me, the situation doesn't matter, dude. It's what you do with your time and how you perceive life that decides whether or not you are deciding or feeling that you've lived it fulfilled. So I agree. I kind of want to circle back to some of the questions.
Yeah. Sorry, we kind of went off.
That's
the rails.
Dude, it's cool. This it's on the same track, but I don't want to miss it while the opportunity is good. And, you know, I strive for excellence, which is the second component, right, at Blackline when we look at this coin here. So I would love to ask you, what is the single best excellent piece of advice that you've received, and from whom?
The single piece of advice that I've ever received, and from who, or most excellent piece of advice.
Yeah.
Well, the truth of it is, it would be from my wife. And all the times in business, I can't even count how many times I wanted to quit. And, you know, my faith plays a lot into decisions and things that I make in my life. And I want it to be relatable to everyone, but I can't not talk about my faith. And so when we started the business, you know, I said, this is something I feel like I'm supposed to do. And I felt led to do it. And so she would say it like this. She'd be like, I'd come home from work, and it was quite a commute because, you know, it was either from our living room to the kitchen or the barn where my office was back into the house, because that's where it was back then. Or I'd be out in the field and I'd come home, and it just it was a grind. It was hard. And I would say to her, I want to just go get a job at Home Depot because I'll get a regular paycheck, and, you know, I can go and work for 40 hours and I will get this in return.
Yeah.
And she would look at me and she would be like, for us and where we were in our faith, she'd be like, well, what's the last thing that you felt God led you to do? And I was like, this. And she said, well, if that hasn't changed, then don't quit.
Damn.
And it was like, and so whether you believe what I believe or not, the best advice that I can give you is that so many people have lost it or missed it because they've given up just before they were about to attain victory. And she would say that to me. And, you know, I'm saying this like she was really nice, but my wife is a hard ass. Everybody that meets her, I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast, but everybody that meets her thinks that she's really sweet and she's really nice. And she is with everybody but me. And she says to me, she's like, don't quit. Like, she's like, stop whining about it. At one point, she actually said, I don't want to hear about Home Depot anymore. This is what you're doing. Do it. And that was a really big deal to get that advice from her, because she was the one that wasn't getting a paycheck and needing to stretch money farther. So the best advice I've ever gotten, the most excellent thing, is don't give up. Don't quit.
Dang, man. Yeah. Now I see where the grit part, which is the last one on the coin, comes in. You have to have it, right? Like that's what pushes you a little far. We were talking a little bit, I think, before the podcast maybe, and you were like, dude, you know, what you are like, look like last week went good. You guys are crushing. You guys are killing it. And I'm like, literally, it's every day coming in here and doing the unglamorous stuff that is out of my comfort zone and that I have no idea about. I'm 38 years old, still learning about this trade of marketing and social media marketing, and I never wanted to do that, dude. I'm a lazy dude at heart, to be honest with you. I got into business myself. I got into business myself so I could be done at 1 and go fishing, come back, play Xbox for a while, and wake up and do it again. And it just didn't work out that way. A fire got lit, and you know what happened, dude? And I think about this. It's sad. I started comparing myself to other people.
Oh, that's never good.
When I was like, I own my own business, I look at these other guys, I'm like, dang, they own their own business, and they actually are fishing. And their guys are out doing something, and they're actually fishing. And I'm like, I'm not doing this right. Like, I gotta do more and figure this out better, because I didn't like myself when I did that. When I compared it, I'm like, you know, I felt like a fraud, to be honest with you. I'm like, I own my own business. I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm like, dude, no, you ain't. Like, the guy that works at the factory here in town that manages a group of people on a shift makes more than you do, right? And I knew that, and I was like, I'm dumb. Help me to be undumb, right? So, or less dumb, as I said earlier. And that's kind of what got me on that trajectory. And you know what it took was just grit. Like, grinding every day. My weekends are gone. My hours are gone. When I'm back, I started studying about marketing and running a business and understanding softwares and different things. And I'm still in that grind mode. I'm still lazy, bro. I still am doing it so that I have free time. Yeah. That's a fantasy, right? Yeah. Like, I don't have no free time. When I get free time, it's because I found it in the gaps. Right. And then I grab my kids and people close to me, and I'm like, hey, let's go do this real quick.
I hear you. I mean, that's, you know, I brought my son to Dirt World. Just because you find it in that way. And I've often struggled with feeling like I'm lazy and realizing I'm doing this so that I don't have to do X. And that motivates me to do this. And then, just like what you're talking about. Absolutely.
Yeah. We did so I'm trying to get better about like I find time when I find time, because what it always ends up is let's go bowling, let's go to the hockey game, let's go whatever, because it's tonight and I have free time. I feel bad because my daughter is going to be 15 and Eli just turned 13. And
is she awake yet? In our last podcast, it was like 11, and you're like, she's not even awake yet.
Yeah, so. She's at school. She's at school. Yeah. She's probably still not awake. She's probably sleeping in class, but she loves to sleep. Her mom loves to sleep too. So like the thing is, now I want to get better at that. It's one of these things where I compared it to my friends and my peers, where they have scheduled times where they take all this hard work that they've been doing, and it pays off because they create memories and experiences for their family and the people close to them and them. So
let me go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we could go back and forth with that, but
You-
I want to interrupt you there because you're talking about something that I've been hearing a lot about lately. And what you're talking about is, have you ever heard this term, work-life balance?
Please don't say that ever again.
I hate that term because it's a lie.
Oh,
There's
totally.
nothing in life that is balanced. And what you're talking about, just to bring some definition to it, because I think this is important. If you're listening to this and you're running an asphalt business, or you're even working in the trades, work-life balance, if that's what you're shooting for, quit. No, I just said don't quit, but it doesn't exist.
No.
What you need is, and what we have to be true to, is boundaries. And those boundaries of, all right, I'm going to block out this time over here, and that is protected and it's safe.
Yep.
So when you tell your daughter or your son, hey, I'm going to do this with you, you've locked that away, you've protected it, you put a boundary around it.
Yeah. I agree. You know what? I'm going to kind of, I always do this. Like I compare things metaphorically to different things. It's a tug of war. It's a never ending game of tug of war. And when you get close to the line where you're losing the battle,
this is a good analogy, man.
You do a rally cry, which is a family vacation. It's buying your kid something, which, you know, I'm never a big fan of buying, but I'm buying them something that they didn't expect would happen. And it came from the sacrifice that they're putting in for you at work, for your work, like you being gone. Do some stuff that helps pull it back. And then guess what, dude? The other side is going to sacrifice some, and they're going to throw up something that's going to pull you back the other way. You have to give in to the idea that you're in a never-ending game of tug of war until the clock goes, it's over. Yeah. And there's not a clear winner. There's never going to be a clear winner. It's just that the game is over. And for me, when I realized that, I was like, okay, the constant little things like, hey, we're going to go out to dinner real quick isn't going to be enough, because the other side, the work side, is throwing up huge things. The 19-day run that I talked about earlier. I ain't gonna win, dude. I'm not gonna win that back by playing a game of one-on-one for 10 minutes with Eli.
Oh man, no,
you know, dude. So, for me, there's not a work-life. It's never gonna be balanced. It's a tug of war back and forth. I want to be more strategic about that. So what I did this year is, I don't know if you follow Jesse Itzler at all. He has this thing popped across my feed now for 2 years. Talk about long time making those 7 impressions that get you to buy. He has something called the Big Ass Calendar.
I own one. It's on my wall.
Yes, sir. So I bought one for me, and I bought one for my kid Eli. And my problem has been that I've never projected my time out far enough for my family and
that's the truth.
My people close to me. I've always done it for work, for Blacktop Banter, right? And I've always done it and been like, oh, I have this in November and October, whatever. And it has had its place on this calendar. Now, that doesn't exist. There's a 10-day span in the middle of June, in July, where my daughter and I are going to Guatemala on a missions trip.
Dude,
that would have never happened, right? So I know that I'm trading 10 days worth of money, right? For this experience that I can always, Josh, I can always go make 10 days worth of money, dude. Always. I can.
Sometimes you can make 10 days worth of money in 3 days. That has happened.
Or one day. That does happen. Yeah,
exactly.
Sometimes it takes 20 days to make 10 days worth of money. But I know I can do that. But I know what I can't do. I can't, in 10 years, I can't wind the clock back to when my daughter was 15. And this was a moment where this was going to make an impression on her that made her into a good person. Right. What I would show her by not committing to that is that money matters more. And I worry that I have done that. This tug of war, that side has won in that tug of war for a while. It's Dad's turn to like put on the big boots and start pulling hard this way before the game's over, before the whistle blows. So that's what we're going to do. That big ass calendar, it's got lots of stuff marked out on there.
I think that thing is awesome. I mean, I use it for the same reason.
visual.
So.
You can, and if I see a gap, I'm like, well, something needs to go on here.
Yeah.
And it ain't going to be a work conference. It's going to be something over here, right, for the kids. So Eli and I, it was his birthday last week, and he loves soccer. Kid loves soccer. He has sacrificed a lot in my journey, which is crazy to think about. Your kids sacrifice in your journey. When I make a choice, I'm sacrificing it for them, which sucks. But I want them to know that it's worth it. So he had a birthday. He got a shirt here, a couple different things, and then he had a small envelope. He opens the envelope up, and then, this is not pride. This is being proud of what we've worked for. He got a ticket to go see the Chicago Fire play Inter Miami, and he gets to see Lionel Messi play in real life in August. And
Dude, that's
dude, to see his face,
I can only imagine.
and to have him hug me was just like, my dad knows me. My dad cares about me. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Right. And I get emotional thinking about that.
Because that's real, and that's what matters.
I'm just thankful, dude. I'm humble enough and have friends enough and am introverted or introspective enough to realize that, because I could be the guy at the factory pushing the buttons and hates it, and then goes to wallow in his sorrows at the bar because he hates it, and never spend time with his kid, even though he has tons of free time, and the time he spends isn't valuable. But I've made a conscious choice in my journey to correct that. And I might be super busy and high achieving, but damn it, I'm not going to let that side of the tug of war pull and win. I'm going to win one way or another, and it's these big shots sometimes that you got to take. Now, don't get me wrong. If Eli's favorite thing was to sit and watch TV with his dad, I would carve out the time for that. So it's being very good to kind of, realize what's going to make it happen.
The key of what you're saying is, your son and what speaks to him, and that takes a level of care. It's not about lots of people that are in business. They have the money and they just shower things on their children. But what you're doing is you're relating with him enough that you know that this is what is going to speak to who he is. Yeah. And so it wouldn't matter. It's not about the monetary value. It's about the care in which the gift was given.
There's a little background before we move on to the next part of that. Last year, that same opportunity came. Messi came, and the tickets were already, a lot of them sold out. It was like a month or two before that game. He got announced that he was going to be at Miami. We went to look up tickets, and it was $4,000. And I was like, dude, not happening. I was like, not happening with what's available. And he's like, Dad, this might be our only shot to see Messi, right? And I'm like, dude, I get it. But there's certain things in we're exchanging time for this. Yeah. And for me, that's not a high enough value for us to exchange time. So we got to have faith that it's going to happen when it was supposed to happen, or if it's going to happen. We flash forward, right? Yeah. They announced a month or so ago that he was going to come back for a second year. I immediately get on, look up the tickets. It's $400 this time. Same tickets, same spot, $400.
Come on.
Right. And so then he's like, did you give $4,000? I was like, no, dude. I said, we gave 400. He's like, that's good. He's like, that's good value. I was like, yeah, dude, that's good value.
He's learning.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a double lesson there in it, right?
Absolutely.
And a test of faith that came back to us, which is very, very good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So there's multiple lessons there. And I think the main thing is, even in those conversations him and I had about the Messi thing, we spent time together talking and figuring things out, and there's an appreciation we've grown to have for each other. So I like that. I want to ask you about something about that.
Sure.
What have you learned about what truly matters, as I'm talking about what truly matters, from entrepreneurship? Like, what have you learned where you're like, I probably wouldn't know this about what truly matters in life if I wasn't an entrepreneur? Does anything stick out?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm trying to word it in a way that it doesn't sound cliche. But the biggest thing that I've learned is, while money has its place, it isn't everything. And, I believe if you're seeking after what you're supposed to be about and going after what you've been called to, then all of the other stuff falls into place. All of the other things kind of fall where they need to be for who you are and how you're wired. And so if you send it and you go after that, those things fall into place, and it is very fulfilling and satisfying. And so that would be the biggest thing that I've learned, is not chasing after one or the other, but chasing after what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm supposed to be about. Because I just was having a conversation with a young man the other day, and he's like, well, the next level for me is I need to be a foreman. You know, I've been doing this and I need to be running jobs. That's what I need to be doing. And well, if you're not wired for that and you're not made for that, you'll get there. And I have seen it multiple times. You'll get there and it's not something that you've been wired to do.
Yeah.
And you don't want to go after that. You want to go after what it is that you're supposed to go after. And so, does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, it totally does. What is it that you're supposed to be doing? Like you're talking about that. Like, what is that big thing? What is it that you're supposed to be doing?
Look
Josh.
at you pushing in.
Uh-huh.
Well, I can't answer that question without being honest about my faith.
An honest conversation.
An honest conversation. And honesty for me is, I actually, I'm gonna really rip the Band-Aid off here and say it all. Honesty for me is not about transparency. I don't think that you should ever tell everybody everything. I think that's stupid.
Yes.
But honesty is not hiding anything.
Yeah.
And so, there are times to share certain things, and that you know when you're hiding something.
Yes.
That's just the truth of it.
Yes.
So for me, I believe that what I'm supposed to be doing, because I believe in God and God plays a role in my life, what I just described to you without talking about God was in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. And this is not meant to be preachy or a message, but you can look it up. It says that you are to seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added unto you.
Mm-hmm.
And, my faith leads me to believe that every person on the planet of the earth has value because they're created in God's image, and that God made them for a purpose that he's designed them for. And so I believe that we're all supposed to be going after the kingdom, and all of those other things fall into place. Every single thing that I do is derived out of that. And all of the other things that I said are truly meaningless if you don't get this. And you can spend your life trying to figure it out, as I have. But when I came to the realization of, okay, well, I'm going to go after that, everything else fell into place. And when we do that, that's when we feel fulfilled. That's when we feel satisfied. So that's what I think.
You want to hear a story? I would agree with that. Remember when I said that my only goal was like get a house, have the mortgage paid, make sure that my bills are paid and be able to sleep peacefully. I worked really, really hard to make enough money to make that happen.
Yeah.
I worked my ass off to make enough money to make that happen. It never happened. When it happened is when I was so stressed out and had so much anxiety about it, which I had never dealt with before up until my life until that point. We had the house. It's so stupid to think about, dude. My first house I bought for $25,000. Our payment was our mortgage was less than $200. We had a small Ford Focus. That payment was less than $200. But making the bills and that stuff stick, and having kids growing up and providing for them was so stressful and so much anxiety on me. I had no other choice but on the front porch of this little white house in a small town called Lone Rock. I spent months asking God to just take care of the money thing, because I can't figure it out. I asked for wisdom, right? You take care of that, I'll take care of everything else. Yeah. When I stopped caring about the money and just about the things that really mattered, as the scripture says, everything else was delivered unto me. Even now, I believe it's delivered unto me. We had that conversation about if we were to get bankrupt tomorrow, it wouldn't take very long. We'd be back in the same place.
Yeah.
How does that happen? That happens from a storehold from somewhere, right? Of knowledge and experience and faith. I sleep really well at night knowing that, because there's trials and problems that are coming. I got some that are coming around the corner, man. I know it, stuff that's inevitable. And it's going to be another test of faith, which I'm going to be honest with you. When I look back, hasn't let me down yet. So why would I ever think it's going to let me down this time, right? That's a really, really good thing. And that happens in business.
It does.
We go look for the books. We go to YouTube and TikTok and look for Ed Milet. What's he say about this? And what's so-and-so say about this or whatever? They can tell you anything under the sun. If you don't have faith that this is going to happen and going to work out, it probably isn't going to, dude. You're going to be focusing on the wrong spot.
Since we're leaning into this, if I can just digress a little bit. So now I'm in business and I have people actually calling and I'm doing this thing. It's really funny. Consulting with different people and companies. And I've had a lot of experience over the years and a lot of doing it the wrong way and painful agony.
Yeah.
But with that experience, I've gone through a lot of different things, whether it's corrupt government officials, whether it is dealing with, different government organizations, because that was how I got my start in all of that world.
Yep.
The private sector is different for me and new to me. So anyway, I've had different people call me, and I was literally just thinking about this morning. Whenever someone has called me and said, well, what did you do to deal with this situation? And when things really changed for us in our business, I'll never forget this. I was having a conversation with this, C-suite level guy in their organization, and he called me on the phone, and our company had been through a similar situation that he knew about, and he called me and he's like, Josh, so what is it that you did in that situation that made it that you guys were able to come out of it and not lose it all? And this is what changed our trajectory in growth as a company when we went from just doing, a couple of million to doing millions of dollars of work. And I remember where I was. I remember what I was doing. I was standing in my office and I'm like, well, I don't want to be honest with this guy about my faith, because the truth of it is that I get down on my knees in my office and I cry out to God and I say, Lord, what do I do? Yeah. And then I might get a thought or an idea or a phone call or whatever. Those are just some of the stories of the things that happen. And I'm like, I don't want to tell him that. We at this point in time, we were actually currently doing a couple million in work for this company. And I'm like, I don't want to tell him that because he's going to think I'm a crazy Christian.
Yeah.
And he's not going to want to do business with me. But I could not get over the honesty piece. And I knew that I was trying to hide my faith. Yeah. I knew that I was trying to hide it. And so I just ripped the Band-Aid off and I said, dude, I don't know where you are with this, but I said, you asked. I'm going to tell you the truth. I said, I pray about this kind of stuff when it happens. And I ask God to give me wisdom. And I said, so if you're asking me for consulting advice on what to do in this situation, I want to pray with you right now. And so I began to, oh man, I can't believe I'm telling you this story. This is going to go on the internet. All right, here we are again. So I pray with him about this. I say, let me pray with you right now if you want a solution. And as I begin to pray, and I was a little no-name company, I get this thought in my mind that I'm supposed to tell him, you need to hire me to go and talk with this guy. This is the thought. Like, how arrogant is that? And to go and talk with this official who you're in this situation with. And I'm going to go and I'm going to represent your company and I'm going to talk with this guy and we're going to help you through this problem. Marvin, I got done praying and I said, well, I think that I know what we're supposed to do. And I'm like, how arrogant is that? And so I say it to him. I rip the Band-Aid off. I mean, I'm just ripping Band-Aids off all day long.
Yeah.
Say it to him.
Sounds like it.
He hires us. He says, absolutely. That's what we need to do. I've never done anything like this before, ever.
Yeah.
And then the whole process was going and dealing with that and seeking God for wisdom in those situations that the Lord gave me wisdom to talk with that official in a truthful and honest way that we brought them through and we saved them millions of dollars in lawsuits because through seeking first what I was supposed to, everything else fell into place. And it was unbelievable. And so I don't even know why I told you that story other than it's pretty significant.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you why I told it. This is why we make a good pair and have good chemistry. In Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, which I've read a few times now, there's a moment when he gets to the end where people are like, dude, is this guy going crazy? Like what he's talking about? Because he talks about a table of his peers. And on this table is Abraham Lincoln and Rockefeller and like all these guys. And he's like, I go there and I ask them questions and they give me responses. And for some people that aren't Christians, that's a viable option. For us, our table just happens to be with who we believe created everything, right?
Yeah.
When we go there. So I think the key is that you open your mind and your peripherals. Shout out to Ed Milet. This is one of his things, right? His reticular activation system, right? When you have a conversation or you play things in your mind or conversations, you start to notice and see those things more. And and those things that you happen to see are solutions. As an example, I am on pre-order for a Tesla Cybertruck. Right?
Come on.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to get it. I might get it and be like, this thing sucks, but I'm going to get one. Because of that, I see the Tesla Cybertruck a lot more now. I see it either in the road or on content or somebody talk about it or whatever. And I got to have a feeling that like it was probably more popular before and I should have heard about it and noticed it more. But I didn't because it wasn't in my biome.
Dude,
I hadn't had that thought or that process yet. Same thing with Lionel Messi. Eli and I started to go back to that. We play FIFA, bro. And like we played it for years now and was always like, dude, we'd love to see him. We'd love to see him. We'd love to see him. Well, then opportunities come where it's like, oh, here he is. Oh, yep. We're getting closer. We're getting closer to the solution to this thought. And here we are going to happen. Now, does that mean that it always is going to work out, come to fruition? No. Would it be at the game? Maybe not. Would we maybe see him when he's 70 years old signing a book? Maybe. And that's when we see him. But the thing is, we started to see this guy more in our peripherals and where we were. And I think that for me personally, and for you, I've come to find out as we become more friends, I do that with prayer.
Me too.
I have a good friend that I don't know if he's a believer or not. Right, we've talked about that with him and I, but I came to the conclusion that the universe works in a way, whether it's infinite intelligence or creator, where when you communicate with it openly, and I believe this through the book The Alchemist that kind of confirmed it for me.
Great book.
The universe conspires to bring that to you, and whether or not God exists or not, I believe he does. So for me, I'm not here to say that because that's not my role.
Yeah,
but I do know that people who practice it, who practice faith, Christianity, whatever it is, keep faith in that because things are shown to them that make them believe that it's true.
Absolutely.
Right? If it wasn't, you wouldn't keep practicing it, right?
Yeah.
So no matter what, the byproduct is a positive change on your life. And if that's all it is, you should be okay with that, right? So for me, I don't care what people believe. I just need them to believe in something, man. I need them to open their minds up, talk out in the open, talk to me, talk to anybody, talk to whoever, talk to God, talk to Abraham Lincoln at an invisible table in your mind. I don't care, man. But you have to open your peripherals to the chance of this happening and it being existing in your biome, because then you grab those opportunities. That opportunity for you to go speak for that guy would have never came up if you wouldn't have shared that. And he wouldn't have called you, and that wouldn't have happened. Same thing with you and I on this podcast. If somebody wouldn't have reached out, I think Curran reached out, or you did at Dirt World, we wouldn't be having this again. We wouldn't be talking about how we're going to meet at World of Asphalt or whatever. And I didn't know you before then, right? Yeah. So as soon as we start talking about something, our peripherals open, we see it more, we make more connections, and more things happen. That's my like big piece of advice in life is literally be open to whatever, think about it and talk about it and be honest. More than likely, opportunities are going to come up when, always the nice guys finish last. It's probably because the nice guys didn't actually believe that it could happen to them, right? But the nice guys can finish first. And if we're not talking about dollars, they're probably already finishing first by just being a good person. And for me, I'm cool with that race. That's the race I want to be in, big dog.
Me
because if not, something all happens to me, guess what, dude? Home Depot's hiring. I know they are, dude. I can always go there. Josh, tell us a little bit about where we can follow you online, and tell us about Blackline, where we can check it out in the podcast, please.
Well, I'll just run through that real quick. So you can follow Blackline online at blacklineltd.com, and our podcast, The Line, by Blackline. If you search on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, The Line by Blackline, it should come up. And it's also on YouTube at Blackline LTD. So all those places you'll be able to follow us, see what we do, And we do a lot. I mean, the line is about, it's a podcast about having an honest conversation to lift the view of the skilled trades, because we believe that people are important, and we think there needs to be more conversations around honesty, excellence, and grit.
Yeah.
So
No, I think we do that, you and I, every time we talk.
Absolutely.
So, I'm appreciative of that too, man, because it adds a lot of value to my life. We made an analogy, you and I did, during this podcast about the tug of war, right?
Yeah.
And as I said, the game's not over until somebody calls the whistle. So even if you're pulled over to the other line and it feels like the other side is winning, guess what? A really good way to get that back on your side is to call for help and have somebody pull the rope behind you for a little bit. Get you back
Absolutely.
over to the other sideline. Never feel like there's not somebody out there that's willing to help. You can DM us or call me or whatever, and I'm sure Josh is open to it as well. The game's not over till the whistle blows in that game of tug of war. And just because you went over the line don't mean we can't pull you back over to the other side and help you out. So, I really enjoy where this conversation went, and I think everybody else does, man. I really appreciate that. The Blacktop Banner website is blacktopbanner.com. When you go there, there's a drop-down menu for the Blacktop Banner Success Group, which is a community of like-minded contractors in the industry. We meet for Zoom calls 3 to 4 times a month. We have a 24/7 chat group, private Facebook group, vendor discount programs, national account work programs. We meet up a couple times. We just did one where we raced with Spencer Boyd down in San Antonio, which was crazy that we were all racing a NASCAR driver. And let it be known, Spencer won every single race, as he should. The other thing we could do is have a newsletter, and it's by contractors, for contractors, with some words from our sponsors and help as well, with things that really matter to contractors in the industry and entrepreneurs in the industry. So please sign up for it when you go to blacktopbanner.com. As always, I would love it if you'd go over to missionimpact.com and check it out. It is a mission in Guatemala that we personally support here and is very close to me. We provide fuel-efficient stoves, clean water, and custom-built wheelchairs to help people in that area, in that country, that may not have access to that stuff. Lastly, find us on social media. Type in Blacktop Banner anywhere on any social media platform. You're going to find us. Josh, as always, it's a pleasure, my friend. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, man, you are always a wonderful, wonderful person to speak to, and a great book to read. And I'm very excited that you're still writing the pages, because it's a story that I love to be part of. So thank you so much for being on this journey with me, man. Anything we can do, as always, help, please reach out.
Thanks, Marvin. Appreciate it,
man. All right. So for myself and for Josh, this is Blacktop Banter. And we didn't talk about it too much, but we speak asphalt. Peace.
All right, man. Later.
Hey, everybody. Marvin here from Blacktop Banter. And if you enjoy the podcast and what we've been bringing to the industry, you can support us through a one-time or recurring donation at blacktopbanter.com. There we have a support tab. You click that and choose your path from there. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do us a favor and leave a review there for us as well. As always, we speak asphalt, and thanks for your support.